All right, so today we're going deep on Turnitin.
Ooh, Turnitin.
Yeah, you know that tool that's basically become like the big name in academic integrity
Right.
or anxiety, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Depending on who you ask, for sure.
Right. Like I think for a lot of students, like, oh no, not Turnitin.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of research on this and a really interesting YouTube video all about how students can kind of like navigate Turnitin and use it to their advantage.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you've ever felt like a little bit intimidated by this whole plagiarism detection thing, this deep dive is for you.
I think it's safe to say that Turnitin evokes very strong feelings for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember why it exists in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's to really help students develop good research and writing habits.
Yeah.
Which are, super important for success in academics.
For sure.
So it's not about trying to catch students out or anything like that, but really just guiding them toward a deeper understanding of what it means to produce original work.
I like that. Thinking of it as like a guide, not a judge.
Exactly.
But still, even understanding how Turnitin actually works can be a little confusing. It's not like magic, right?
No magic here.
Okay, good.
At its heart, Turnitin is really just a very sophisticated piece of software that compares a student's writing against this massive database.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking billions of web pages, journal articles, books, even other student papers.
Ah.
And it uses these very complex algorithms to identify matching text, which helps instructors spot potential plagiarism.
So it is looking for those like copy and paste moments, but what I thought was really interesting in the YouTube source we have is that even properly cited work can trigger Turnitin.
Right.
Why is that?
Yeah, it's because just putting quotation marks around a borrowed phrase isn't always enough.
Okay.
So Turnitin's algorithms are actually sophisticated enough to detect what we call patch writing.
Patch writing.
Yeah, so that's basically where you've just kind of like rearranged a few words from the original source. And it really highlights the importance of true paraphrasing.
Right.
Like understanding the material so deeply that you can actually re-express it in your own words.
So it's not just about like avoiding the plagiarism part of it, but also like, are you actually demonstrating that you get it?
Right. You really understand the material.
Okay, so accessing Turnitin seems pretty crucial then.
For sure.
But I have to admit, I was a little surprised to learn that individual licenses aren't even an option.
Yeah.
I just kind of assumed you could like buy a subscription if you needed it.
That's a common misconception.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, so Turnitin mainly operates through these institutional licenses. So that means universities purchase access for their students and faculty.
Gotcha. So what happens if like your school doesn't have a license? Are you just kind of out of luck?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Some institutions will allow students to check their work before submitting it if they have a license.
Right.
But what's interesting is this YouTube video actually offers a workaround. Yeah, they're suggesting that students use free accounts that they can find on YouTube itself.
What?
Yeah, apparently some videos provide class IDs and enrollment keys for free Turnitin accounts.
Wait, hold on. Free Turnitin accounts on YouTube? This is like some secret treasure map kind of stuff.
It does sound a little bit like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it also raises some questions about, accessibility and like how far students have to go to use this pretty crucial tool.
For sure.
But we'll definitely circle back to that.
Yeah.
For now, let's actually dive into those 5 must-do tips the YouTube source gives for using Turnitin effectively.
Okay, love it. So tip number 1, learn to use Turnitin and interpret its reports.
Okay.
Seems pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's more to it than just like looking at the percentage score.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
The source really stresses understanding why certain passages are flagged.
Oh, okay.
Like what types of matches is Turnitin finding? Is it a direct quote paraphrasing or something else entirely?
So that report is really your guide to revising, not just like scrambling to lower a number?
That's exactly it.
Okay, that's a good point. It's like
Okay.
understanding the feedback, not just like reacting to it.
Right.
Okay, tip number 2. This is where we get into that YouTube workaround. Create a Turnitin student account.
All right.
What's the strategy here?
Well, the video walks you through it step by step.
Okay.
And apparently, the key is to find recent videos with low view counts, less than 200 to be exact,
Okay.
and that don't mention the term repository.
Repository. What does that even mean in this context?
Basically, a repository just means that the Turnitin account that you're using is storing all the submitted work in its database.
Okay.
So the problem is if you submit that same work through your school's official Turnitin later on,
Oh.
you could actually end up flagging yourself for self-plagiarism.
Oh, wow. So it's like you're plagiarizing your own past work.
Exactly. It's like accidental self-plagiarism.
But you really got to find those non-repository accounts.
Right.
Okay, tip number 3. Check all papers for plagiarism before final submission. I feel like this is where the student anxiety really kicks in.
Understandably.
Right.
But think of it this way. Running your work through Turnitin before submitting it is like this safety net.
Okay.
It gives you the chance to catch any of those little unintentional errors, like a missed citation or maybe paraphrasing, that's a little too close to the original source.
Oh, yeah.
And the source also points out that some instructors won't let you resubmit if plagiarism is detected. So that
Oh.
pre-check can be super important.
Yeah, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
Exactly.
Okay, tip number 4. Don't rely solely on free alternatives to Turnitin.
Okay.
But wait, didn't we just talk about those free accounts from YouTube?
Right, but those are still using Turnitin itself, just through a different way of accessing it.
Right, okay.
This tip is more about the other plagiarism checkers you find online.
Gotcha.
So the source actually mentioned one called Inago specifically. Yeah. And while those tools can be useful for a quick initial check, they often don't have the same level of sophistication as Turnitin does.
So they might miss things that Turnitin would catch.
Exactly, especially when it comes to more specialized fields where you have really specific terminology and concepts.
Okay.
Turnitin's database and algorithms are just a lot more robust.
So it's kind of like using a basic search engine versus a specialized research database.
That's a great analogy.
Right. You might get some results with the basic one, but the other one is designed for more like depth and accuracy.
Exactly, and when it comes to academic integrity, you really need that accuracy.
You don't want to be caught off guard by a plagiarism flag that a free tool might have missed.
For sure.
All right, last but not least, tip number 5. Change the perception of Turnitin as a nightmare.
Yes.
This feels more like a pep talk.
It is. It really is all about mindset.
Okay.
And recognizing that Turnitin, when used effectively, can actually be a really powerful tool for growth. So instead of approaching it with this fear or resentment, we should think of it as a learning opportunity.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a chance to get better at paraphrasing, to deepen our understanding of citations, and just become better, more confident writers overall.
It's like instead of fearing the tool, you're using the tool to sharpen your skills.
Exactly.
I love it. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's still more to uncover in this deep dive on Turnitin, so stick with us.
Definitely. Welcome back.
Okay, so let's kind of unpack some of those 5 Turnitin tips
Yeah.
even further.
Right.
And I think that first one, learn to use Turnitin and interpret its reports.
Yes.
I'm really curious about that because it's easy to just get fixated on that percentage score.
Right.
But I feel like there's a lot more we can get from the report.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Imagine, like, you get a low similarity score and you're feeling super relieved.
Yes.
But then later on, you find out that you actually unintentionally paraphrased too closely from a source.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important to understand the types of matches that Turnitin is highlighting.
Okay.
So like, is it flagging common phrases, short strings of similar wording, or like longer passages that need to be reworked a bit more?
So it's about like recognizing patterns and then figuring out what those patterns mean about your writing habit.
Exactly, and that's where the report can really become a learning tool.
Yeah.
Let's say Turnitin's showing you a bunch of patch writing instances where you've just kind of rearranged phrases but haven't really grasped what the source is saying.
Yeah.
That's telling you to go back, really understand the material, and then rephrase it in a way that's truly reflecting your own voice and analysis.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, tip number 2, create a Turnitin student account. This is where we get into that whole interesting YouTube workaround.
Right.
Do you think that kind of speaks to a larger issue of accessibility when it comes to Turnitin?
Yeah, I mean, if students are going on YouTube to find free accounts, it definitely raises questions. Like maybe universities should think about offering temporary licenses for students who don't need it all the time.
Right.
Or, maybe exploring other plagiarism detection software that might be a little more budget friendly.
It's not just about like having the tool, but making sure that everyone who needs it can actually use it.
Exactly.
Okay, tip number 3, check all papers for plagiarism before final submission.
Yes,
This one feels very important.
it is.
Why do they emphasize this so much in the source?
Well, think of it as like taking ownership of your academic integrity.
Okay.
So when you proactively check your work, you're showing that you are committed to creating original work
Right.
and that you want to avoid any unintentional plagiarism.
Yeah.
And it also lets you revise before you give it to your instructor,
Right.
which could save you from a lot of stress later on.
For sure. It's better to be safe than sorry. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so tip number 4, don't rely solely on free alternatives to Turnitin. We talked about this a little bit before, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about why Turnitin stands out from like all the other options.
Well, Turnitin's database is just massive.
Okay.
It covers so many academic and online resources.
Wow.
So that alone gives it a big advantage over the free options out there that might have smaller databases and might miss stuff.
Right.
But it's not just about size.
Yeah.
Turnitin's algorithms are also super advanced.
Oh, okay.
It's always evolving and getting better at detecting even those super sneaky forms of plagiarism.
So it's kind of like the difference between using like a basic search engine versus a specialized research database.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
You'll get some results with the basic one, but the other one is designed for more accuracy.
Right. And when it comes to academic integrity,
Yeah.
accuracy is key.
Right. You don't want to be caught off guard by something a free tool missed.
Sure.
Okay, last tip. Change the perception of Turnitin as a nightmare.
Yes, love this one.
This is all about mindset, right?
It really is. It's about understanding that Turnitin, when you use it right, can actually help you grow.
Okay.
So instead of approaching it with fear or resentment,
Yeah.
think of it as a partner in helping you improve your research and writing skills.
I like that it's like having like a built-in editor that helps you figure out where your paraphrasing could be better or
Yeah.
where you need more citations.
Exactly. And the better you get at those skills, the more confident you'll be as a researcher and a writer.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's about shifting away from seeing Turnitin as a punishment and seeing it as a chance to refine your skills and really understand academic integrity.
I love that. Okay, wow. This has been so insightful.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gone beyond just like how to use Turnitin.
Yeah.
And we've talked about like the bigger picture of academic integrity and student success.
For sure.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on this tool now.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting to see how a tool like Turnitin can really make us think about bigger issues. Like, what does originality mean?
Mm-hmm.
How do we do research ethically? And how is education changing in a digital world?
Yeah. And speaking of sparking conversations, I can't wait to hear your final thoughts on this.
Oh, yes.
Stay tuned. All right. So welcome back to our Turnitin deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we have.
From like how those algorithms actually work to the bigger picture of like what plagiarism even means in our digital world.
Exactly. And I think we did a pretty good job of, reframing Turnitin as something that can actually help students instead of scaring them.
I hope so.
Yeah. But before we wrap up, I really want to hear that final, like, thought-provoking idea that you mentioned.
Oh, yes.
What is the one thing you really want our listeners to think about?
Well, we've talked a lot about the practical side of Turnitin.
Right.
How to use it, how to access it, even how to get it for free.
Yeah.
But there's something deeper here that we don't always talk about.
Okay. I'm listening.
Academic integrity isn't just about avoiding plagiarism
Right.
or getting a good Turnitin score.
Yeah.
It's about respecting knowledge itself, like understanding that ideas have value and that when you build on someone else's ideas, you need to acknowledge where they came from.
So it's about being part of that conversation of, like, scholarship and research, but doing it in an ethical way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you embrace academic integrity, it's not just about following the rules.
Right.
It's about being part of a community that values honesty, originality, and learning.
Yeah.
And that's something that goes way beyond the classroom.
It's about developing that sense of responsibility for your own learning and thinking.
Right.
Which you can take with you anywhere.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're writing a research paper, working on a project, or even just having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Think about it. Every time you cite something correctly, or you take the time to paraphrase properly, or when you really try to express things in your own words,
Yeah.
you're not just finishing an assignment.
Right.
You're contributing to that culture of honesty and growth.
I love that framing. It's not just about avoiding getting in trouble.
Right.
It's about being part of something bigger.
Exactly. So as you go through school, remember that Turnitin is just one tool you have.
Right.
The real key is to embrace those principles of academic integrity
Okay.
and let them shape not just your work, but also who you are as a person.
That's a powerful thought. Wow, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
It has.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure.
And to our listener, we hope this episode has helped you feel more informed about Turnitin and, more importantly, inspired to approach academic integrity with a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep diving deep.